I'm going to read Hansel and Gretel in Chinese and in English. 聪明的兄妹，黑泽尔 is Hansel, 格雷特 is Gretel. 聪明的兄妹，黑泽尔和格雷特是一对儿又聪明又勇敢的兄妹，可他们的继母一点儿也不喜欢他们。一天，继母让父亲把兄妹俩扔到大森林深处去。黑泽尔听见了他们的谈话，就悄悄地在口袋里装满了白色的小石子。第二天，当父亲带着兄妹俩向森林深处走去时，黑泽尔偷偷地把小石子扔到路上。当父亲扔下兄妹俩走后，黑泽尔就带着格雷特沿着小石子引指的路回到了家。继母看见了他们，生气极了，可父亲却很高兴，因为他舍不得这两个孩子。过了一段时间，继母又让父亲把两个孩子扔掉。这一次，黑泽尔却没有听见他们的话，所以他们真的被父亲扔在大森林里。兄妹俩怎么也找不到回家的路。他们在大森林里走啊走啊，看到一座小屋子。呀，这是一座多么神奇的小屋子啊！它的墙壁是用软绵绵的面包造的，屋顶是由散发着奶油芳香的蛋糕做的，窗户则是亮晶晶的糖。黑泽尔高兴极了，他大声呼喊道：哈，我们可以美美的吃一顿了。是啊，格雷特也赞同地大喊。说完，他们就欢快地吃了起来。这时，从小屋子里走出一个老巫婆，她把黑泽尔关到笼子里，让格雷特干活。她要把黑泽尔养肥，好把它吃掉。格雷特害怕极了，可他没有办法，只能按照老巫婆说的做。每天早晨，老巫婆都要去看看黑泽尔。黑泽尔，把你的手指头伸出来，让我摸摸是不是肥了。黑泽尔并不伸出手指头，他偷偷地伸出一根小骨头。老巫婆的眼睛看不清楚，以为这就是黑泽尔的手指头。她心里奇怪，为什么黑泽尔总也长不胖呢？老巫婆不想再等了，就对格雷特说：快去弄点水来，格雷特，不管黑泽尔是胖还是瘦，明天我都要把它煮了吃。第二天早上，老巫婆把格雷特推到熊熊燃烧的面包炉前，说：你爬进去看火烧的旺不旺，能不能烤面包。老巫婆是想把格雷特骗进火炉里，把它烤熟了吃。聪明的格雷特看出了老巫婆的用心，说：我不知道应该怎么进去。笨蛋，炉门够大的，你看连我都能进去。老巫婆把头伸进烤炉里做示范。格雷特趁机把老巫婆推进火炉里，烧死了。然后他跑到笼子那儿，打开门，高兴地大声喊着：黑泽尔，快出来吧，快出来吧，我们得救了，老巫婆已经烧死了。黑泽尔跳出来，他们拥抱着，高兴极了。兄妹俩走进老巫婆的小屋，看见房子里有很多名贵的珍珠和宝石。呵，这可比小石子好看得多，黑泽尔一边说，一边往口袋里装。我也要带点回家去， 格雷特说着，也装了满满一围裙。他们离开了小屋子，兄妹俩在森林里走啊走啊，寻找回家的路。可真幸运，很快他们就走出了大森林，远远地望见了父亲的房子。他们兴奋地跑回家，冲进屋，抱住了父亲。父亲兴奋地流出了热泪，他也紧紧地抱住了两个孩子。自从把孩子扔在森林里以后，父亲就没有高兴过。现在继母已经死了，一切烦恼都没有了。兄妹俩又带回了这么多珍珠宝石，他们一家人从此高高兴兴地过上了富裕的好日子。Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, there lived on the edge of a dark forest a poor woodcutter, his wife and 2 children. The little boy was called Hansel, and the little girl's name was Gretel. When the children were small, the woodcutter had lots of work, and everyone had plenty to eat. But sad to say, their happiness did not last. The woodcutter's wife died, and the poor man chose another, who turned out to be cruel and selfish. One day, a great famine came to the land, leaving everyone short of food. The poor woodcutter was very worried, as they had only 1 piece of bread left. His family would soon starve. Hansel and Gretel's cruel stepmother made sure that she wouldn't starve. Tomorrow morning, take the children to the thickest part of the forest and leave them, she said. Someone may come along and take pity on them, and perhaps give them some food, for if they stay with us, they will starve anyway. She pleaded and argued so much that the woodcutter was forced to agree with her evil suggestion. Hansel and Gretel had not been able to sleep because they were so hungry, and they heard every word their parents had said. "Don't cry, Gretel," said the boy to his little sister, "for I have thought up a plan to find our way home again." The moon was shining brightly as Hansel climbed out his bedroom window and jumped down onto the path. He filled both his pockets with small white pebbles, then crept quietly back to bed. Early next morning, the poor woodcutter led his children deeper and deeper into the forest. Clever Hansel trailed behind, pretending to be watching the birds. Every so often, he let fall a shiny white pebble from his pocket. When it grew dark, the woodcutter built a huge fire. His children were so tired that they fell asleep in front of it. When they woke up, their father had gone. Little Gretel was very frightened and began to cry. "Don't worry," Hansel told his sister. "Wait until the moon comes out." Once the moon had risen, the children could see the pebbles shining brightly on the forest path. They followed them, and by morning they were home. Their father was overjoyed to see his dear children again, but their cruel stepmother was very angry because the plan had failed. It wasn't long before she began to argue and plead with the woodcutter once more. "There's not enough food left to feed us all," she screamed. "Get rid of your children or we shall all die." This time, to make sure the woodcutter made no more mistakes, the stepmother went along to see that Hansel and Gretel were left to die in the forest. However, she did not notice Hansel throwing down tiny crumbs of bread onto the forest path. Once again, the woodcutter made the children a roaring fire. And once again, they both fell fast asleep. When the children woke up and found themselves alone, they began to search for the breadcrumbs. But, alas, the birds have eaten them all up. Poor Hansel and Gretel, they sat down and cried themselves to sleep by the fire. In the morning, when it grew light, the two set off to find their way home. In fact, they were just walking around in circles, deeper and deeper into the forest. It was then that Hansel noticed a tiny white bird sitting on a branch. The bird began to sing. "Follow me, follow me." It flew in front of the children until it reached a little house in a clearing. It was the most unusual house you could dream of. The walls were made of gingerbread and the roof of cake and biscuits. The windows were sugar and the doors were peppermint sticks. Hansel and Gretel were so hungry that they began to eat bits and pieces of the house. Then the door opened and an old woman hobbled out. At first, the children drew back in fear. "Come inside, my dears," she smiled, "and I will look after you." The old woman cooked them a lovely dinner and showed them 2 little beds, covered with soft pillows and blankets. That night, the children fell asleep thinking they were safe and sound at last. Poor Hansel and Gretel, they had fallen right into a trap. The old woman was really an evil witch, whose favorite food was children. Very early next morning, the witch grabbed the sleeping Hansel and locked him in a cage. Next, she shook Gretel hard. "Wake up, girl, and cook your brother a huge breakfast. When he's fat enough, I shall eat him." Day after day, Gretel had to cook huge meals to fatten up her brother. Now the witch was very short-sighted. Every morning, she would make Hansel stick his finger out of the cage, just to see how much he had grown. But the boy was crafty. Instead of his finger, he would poke a chicken bone through the bars. "You're still too thin," she would scream, and make Gretel cook even more food. Week after week went by, until the witch could wait no longer. "I shall eat him right away," she cackled. Without wasting a moment, the old witch dragged Gretel into the kitchen. She made the terrified girl stoke the fire until the oven was red hot. "Is the oven ready for roasting?" called the witch with glee. "I cannot tell," answered Gretel, pretending not to understand. This made the witch very angry. "Stupid girl," she cried, and she put Gretel across the room. "This is how it is done." And the witch bent over and stuck her head in the oven. Gretel gave her one great push, and the evil witch fell inside and was burned to a crisp. Swiftly, Gretel freed her brother from the awful cage, and the children danced for joy. Before they left for home, they found a pile of gold hidden in the witch's cottage. Then, as if by magic, a new path opened up through the forest. It led to a broad river where a great-white duck was waiting to take them across. Very soon, they saw their own dear house through the trees. Their wicked stepmother had died, and their father was a sad and sorry man. Luckily, Hansel and Gretel soon forgot about the wicked witch. They forgave their poor father and all lived happily ever after.